You are about to enter the Ghostly Archives. Well, good evening, everyone. It is Ghostly Archives time. Tuesday night is our regular spooky night. Although, honestly, I do spooky stuff on my news podcast. I mean, this Friday, you guys don't want to miss it. We're going to have Tinfoil Hat Friday, and we're probably going to talk about Donald Trump as a time traveler. Isn't that weird? Okay, my guest just was in the green room and she's just disappeared. Hopefully she'll come back. Well, I wasn't expecting that. We are talking about ghosts though. So let's see. But anyways, guys, while I'm trying to make sure that my guest Tillie is okay, if you guys would do me the favor of reposting, sharing, subscribing on all those platforms. She's back. She's back. All right. It was probably an internet thing. Okay. Well, I'll bring her in a second. You guys share the content. Subscribe. I'll also encourage you to subscribe to my guests' YouTube channel. Please always support the guests that come on the show. Tillie's YouTube channel is called The Weird Walk Home. And I encourage you to check her out and subscribe and watch her stuff as well. And remember, share, especially on we got a few people in the chat in YouTube. Howdy Incognito and howdy Jonacide. I hope you guys are having a good evening. Now, we are streaming on Rumble. So if you would be so kind to subscribe on Rumble. It's new. I have 15 subscribers. Not very many. Most of y'all coming from X. But it's Gen X on X over at Rumble, mostly political stuff, but I'm streaming this show because, Mandela effect, what we're going to talk about tonight is one of those really strange, I don't want to call it like mindfuck kind of thing, but it's one of those strange phenomenons that really get you thinking, okay? So we're going to be talking about that. And remember, if you want to support me as well, financially, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/genxnews. It's right down there at the bottom if you want to type it in and donate to help this little show keep running. So I'm not going to put it off any much longer. I'm going to bring my guest in before she disappears again. All right, Tillie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so sorry for the connection issues tonight. For anyone who may not know, we just moved out into the country. We don't have our Wi-Fi yet, and internet's pretty spotty here, so I apologize for anything that may or may not occur.
Well, you know what? If it was me, I would move out somewhere out in the middle of nowhere or away from society too. And if the cost was not as good internet, I might just take that cost. I don't know, maybe contact Elon and the Starlink. I don't know. Figure it out somehow. All right. So before we get into Mandela effect, maybe let the audience know who you are and how you got into this kind of topic or why you're interested in it.
I think I can handle that. So, my friends, I wish you a merry morning or a magical midnight wherever you are. It is a joy and a pleasure to be here. And as far as my backstory goes, I've just been having paranormal occurrences since I was in the baby carrier, and I've always been interested because of those events just carrying through my entire life. Then, when I was a little bit younger, I happened to be essentially recruited onto part of the exorcist team for the Catholic Church. And I served about a year there. And then I decided to go my own way, and I was offering healings, tarot card readings, all of that good stuff, some mediumship services, and space cleansing, advising, all the good stuff there. And I retired a few years ago from that for the most part. Then I met Tim Swartz from Ancient Aliens, and he wanted me to come right on his team. I did that. Now we have launched a YouTube channel together, and um, the rest is, as they say, history. Here I am.
So what's so intriguing about the Mandela effect that made you
Ooh,
want to research and get into that? Because I'm in some groups, and some of it I think, yeah, well, that I doubt it. I know how human memory goes, but some of it, it's like,
sure.
yeah, no, that's really bizarre.
I completely agree with you, my friend. Um, the Mandela effect, I have been witnessing that since I was about 3 or 4 years old, and I know what I saw.
Mhm.
And later on, proof would come up that maybe I wasn't as nutsy as what people were saying that I was. And I've always found that intriguing because it seems to me that there is an extremely subjective side to the Mandela effect that is later on often backed up by what appears to be objective truth. So that
Mhm.
was my start within the Mandela effect. And interestingly enough, the book that I'm writing right now with Tim Swartz and the team over at Zontar, we're focusing on topics like the Mandela effect and dimensional shifts and dimensional rifts, and how that may or may not play into incarnate existence and incarnate experience here in the 3D. That's my backstory anyway with the Mandela effect. Um, but I do think that it is heavily tied into death and timeline shifts, which I think go hand in hand. And I have, I could recount even my most recent near death experience, um, because I have, I think, a pretty cool story to tell about that too, if you'd like.
Please do, go ahead.
Sure. All right, so I'm pretty new to the paranormal arena, and people may not know. Um, I have a pretty complex genetic profile, and
Mhm.
part of that includes porphyria. Porphyria is a set of genetic differences, you could even say in some ways disabilities, because I can't tolerate the sunlight. It makes the red blood cells essentially, from what I understand, explode, and then it causes organ damage trying to get that out of the system, and it's activated by UV light. Part of my genetic profile is that I have an extremely sensitive nervous system, to the point where even medications and supplements that are said to be safe for literally everyone, there's still a 50% chance that it could cause me harm, be overactive or underactive in my system.
Mhm.
Well, I had taken advice from doctors, and I was on a certain thyroid desiccant for the last about year and a half or so. And over the weekend of March 24th, I think that's about when it was. I'm still dealing with some brain fog.
No
One
worries.
evening, I just, huh?
I said no worries.
Um, I started having a bunch of really strange symptoms. It started off with rapid heartbeat, and then it progressed into feeling extreme brain fog, and just I couldn't think straight, and I was sweating profusely, extreme temperature dysregulation, and then I started getting tunnel vision, and I was having a lot of trouble even. It kept getting worse to the point where I was afraid that I was going to pass out, so I elected to call an ambulance.
Hopefully her internet will click back in, guys. She's just having a little bit of connection problem. Um, oh, drats. Well, that happens sometimes where people have a little bit of a connection issue, but I'm sure it'll hook back in. If not, she will come back on. Um, I just want to bring up a comment that is in the chat while she is regulating that out for everyone. We have a comment that said John aside has said he had a bunch of Mandela effects after past life regression where we changed some things. And I asked him, wow, you changed it through past life regression. And he said, yeah, it wasn't a big deal during it, but after a bunch of stuff, there was different and it faded after a while. I know things change, but I can't recall everything that did. Okay, so that's really interesting. Welcome back. It's all good.
I'm so
I was just
sorry,
going
guys.
over a comment. It's okay. I was just going over comments that someone had while you were out, that someone had mentioned that when they did past life regression, they changed things and it sort of caused a Mandela effect. We can talk
I'm
about
not
that
at
later.
all. Yeah, I'm not at all surprised about that.
You were talking about your porphyria and what you went through on the weekend. That weekend, like you had to go, you were really not well.
Yeah. When the ambulance got there, I'm sorry, when the fire truck, they arrived first here in Florida, and they took all of my vitals and whatnot. They saw that my blood pressure was dropping, but my heart rate was really high, and they could tell that I wasn't walking right, I wasn't talking right, all of that. So they called for EMS, which thankfully they were already en route because of my symptoms. And shortly before the EMS, or EMTs, maybe I should say, arrived, I had to sit down, and it's the weirdest thing. I was being blasted, it felt like, in and out of my body from here to what I realm or the DMT realm, and I would see those over my vision that would give way to just like hundreds of pairs of eyeballs and non-human people watching me, and some of them were like trying to point and tell me, like, seemingly to give me advice. And I got the feeling that a lot of them were just really curious about where I was going to wind up, and I felt like I was spinning and being rouletted, and then I landed here. So I went to the emergency room, found medication to like medication immediately because it was that bad. It helped me like my blood pressure, and I was having really serious anxiety to the point where I could barely talk, like make coherent sentences. I've never experienced this before. What they found out is that I was having a horrible reaction to thyroid medication, and it was poisoning my blood. So
oh dear,
that was that. I spent time in the hospital. I came home. When I was able to eat my appropriate food again, I always have trouble. Well, I always had trouble with a certain wisdom tooth that grew in really harshly and crookedly against one of my molars. I ate my food, and then I realized I wasn't having any pain or feeling anything stuck back there. So I went to use some floss, as I usually would, and it's usually such a pain in the butt. It would take me like half an hour to get food unstuck from there. It sucked. I felt no tooth whatsoever. There was no food stuck anywhere in there. I couldn't believe it. So I went to the mirror, and I'm like prying my mouth open in the hand and feeling with the toothpick. The entire wisdom is completely gone. I just have a straight row of and that was the biggest tell, I think, to me, that I lines. At least that's my belief. That's my opinion. And it was the worst medical experience of my life, but I'm grateful because now it's another thing to talk about. Good for me in the long run because I lost I got a lot more super important information genetic profile so that I can hopefully be here longer and have more fun with you guys. So,
Well, that's interesting that about the wisdom tooth. That's really fascinating. And so, from what I understand about the actual official Mandela effect, is that it was actually coined the Mandela effect because I believe it was 1980. People all thought that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in 1980, but he hadn't. And they could have swore that they seen advertisement like news reels and everything announcing his death in 1980s. But of course, he was alive and released from prison. So they started to call it the Mandela effect. Have you heard that?
I have heard that this origin was from Fiona Broome. And for I remembered Nelson Mandela in prison in 1991. But what's your memory?
Oh, you just cut out there. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, it's really interesting. And what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to pop a little video on here. Let me go to my designs here. We'll get a little video. Some of the Mandela effects, I'm like, okay, no, this has got to be, there's something to this. And some of them, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to see what's what.
He claims that CERN destroyed the universe during recent experiments, which has resulted in us living in a nearby parallel universe instead.
You're welcome, Eddie.
There's a lot of people online that think this is an explanation for all the Mandela effect things.
He goes into stuff about the Mandela effect, how there's like apparently a bunch of people who think Mandela died in prison,
right?
And like there's as far as I know, he was released, became president of South America. And that's the universe I'm from, just personally.
I find it, I'm going to pop her back up. I find it really interesting that they're equating CERN and a lot of the experiments that they're doing with Mandela effects. And then we have it's interesting that we have in our chat people talking about past life regressions. It's like there are two different ways of playing with time. And from what I understand, what they're doing with CERN now is they are trying to recreate the moments after the Big Bang. They're like, that's time travel. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know what your thoughts about that is.
Yeah. I think personally that it is feasible. So my understanding is that there are two different types of time and timeline travel. The organic type, which is how the universe and our souls function, so organically jumping timelines from near-death experiences or just because our higher selves want to take a completely different road. But then I also fully believe that once humankind starts to interact with the quantum more intimately and starts to surpass a certain level of expertise, I really do believe that they are creating a 3D and sometimes even 4D version of time travel, timeline transference. And I think that this is also where the Mandela effect can and does come from. What do you think?
Well, I think it's really interesting that people have these, like they swear on that certain things were spelt certain ways. Something was different. The Fruit of the Loom logo had the cornucopia. I think it's really interesting. And it to me, it says like the organic way, I think is probably more common right now because people are, I think there's something happening with mind and thought and time and in a way we don't necessarily understand it. I think some things are explainable. Like I know like with my grandmother, she would tell stories and they were consistent. They were the same stories about what had happened in the past. And when she was older, just before she died, I noticed her getting this, combining the stories and getting them more confused. So like that can happen where people get things confused, but there are people who are saying, no, I swear to God, and it was like that. And I think something is happening, just like when Genocide in our chat is talking about his mind and going back in hypnosis and changing certain things in the past that caused a Mandela effect in the future. I think the organic way we're doing it, and it's really a natural process maybe, and it's like almost seamless, but I am suspicious about this CERN way, that because it's not organic, it's not seamless, and there could be some kind of really strange consequence for humans that we don't foresee, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I don't support humankind doing that type of exploration because of exactly what you said. Consequences. We don't know what they could be. We don't know who else they may or may not affect. We don't know where the effects may ripple out to. And it's tough for me because I personally don't support it. However, I believe that God or the creative source wants to explore every and any possible outcome. And so this is just another one of those trails. And who am I to judge? That's what I think about it. Although I personally just don't support it. I just don't think it's a good idea. But I also am pretty risk averse. I'm not a gambling girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I totally think that their experiments are having some type of effect. And something else that I think I understand, if it's true anyways, is that in you could say the 4D and the 5D and beyond, those people, typically I would say they're non-human people, they have access to many different timelines. And so they can organically choose and jump as they please. And some human people seem to have caught onto this and develop their own methods of doing this, which also that's something I discuss in the book coming out soon with Tim, like the 2-cup method, jumping from dimension to dimension using that method. And there are lots of other methods available as well that seem to work here on this 3D plane. So therefore, I just don't think that what CERN is doing is necessary. It screams, in a strange sense, materialism to me. And I think that once someone gets too far down the materialist road, even if we are talking quantum materials, I think that that's where we get into more of a destructive zone, if that makes sense.
It does. And one of the other elements about the CERN stuff that concerns me is they're very strange, almost satanic, bizarre rituals that go with the opening of that tunnel. And it's like they're trying to bring some kind of old god back. So it's not just like, oh, we want to see about time travel. It feels like they're trying to open something and let something through that probably really should just leave it alone.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know, but the fact, if they were just experimenting, that would be one thing, but the rituals associated with it make me a little bit suspicious of what their real knowledge and intent is, and what they really know and what they're telling us they know. And it may even be that the scientists don't know. They think they're doing one thing and someone higher up is like, nah, we're doing something else.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought. I've worked in professional groups that are compartmentalized before, and so I think I might have seen a few clues that what you're saying is correct, that it is compartmentalized. The lower down people don't know what's going on, but there are higher up people pulling the strings. And I believe that we live in a blended universe. I believe that there are many people who walk amongst humankind who are not human or who are hybrids, and they may or may not have the best interest at heart for humanity. So when I look at what you're saying, and I compare it to what I've seen the people at CERN doing, it seems to me that there are either human sellouts or possibly non-human people behind the scenes pulling these strings to try to bring someone or something back. And I think that that's where we get into some very dangerous territory. And this is why I don't recommend personally worshiping at all. I don't deal with religion. I don't recommend it. I don't like it. And I think that worship is a form of negative energy vampirism.
Oh, interesting, because you're feeding your energy to a deity or an entity who I don't know.
Yeah. And so for me, my personal rule is that I would only trust the non-human people who are here living out a lifetime on Earth, because, as you could say, they have skin in the game, and they're enmeshed with a human society. So they're invested to one degree or another for the health of everyone, because even for the healthy and the positive towards humanity, energy empaths, which all empaths, non-human empaths, are technically energy vampires, but that doesn't make them evil necessarily. And evil is subjective. It doesn't make them, though, like, against humankind. But to have a non-personal relationship with a being like what CERN is trying to seemingly call forth, I think is a recipe for disaster for everyone involved. If anyone was going to get involved with a non-human person, I would recommend you have a personal one-to-one relationship with that person where you both agree to treat each other as equals and with love, compassion, honesty as best as possible. And it's a one-to-one. It's not like what they're doing at CERN, which to me just screams mass food farming, which is how some non-human people certainly seem to see humankind. And I don't think that that's a fair shake. You know what I mean? But
but it's a different kind of food in this realm. It would be like a energetic thing. It'd be, I mean, unless I'm mistaken and they are planning to physically devour us. I mean, it's always possible. I've seen enough horror movies. But it is disturbing because it's so, and I know there's people out there who are listening who are going to say, "Oh, Melissa, you're being ridiculous. It's so silly. It's just it's a hadron collider. They're just separating molecules and they're pretty much looking for dark matter or something. They're looking for, there's 17 molecules or something like that's out there that they think exist that they've never really proven." And it reminds me of that book series, His Dark Materials. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, or there was a TV series, but I won't ruin it, but they're on a quest finding dust or dark matter, and inside one of the books they cut like through a portal and these dark things come out, and they have this special knife where they do that. And in the first book, they've got these kids. You have a daemon attached to you, and it appears as a little creature. And when you're young, it changes form, but as you get older, it shapes into one animal. And in the book, there's these people kidnapping children, and they're doing experiments on them, trying to separate them from their daemon to stop them from going into puberty. Seriously, God.
Whoa.
It's messed up, dark series. It's really good, though. It's very good. I can't remember the third one's the Amber Spyglass, but and in this one of that they're bad. The mother and father are bad characters because they're doing a lot of this stuff. They're really corrupt people, and they're looking for this dust or dark material. And there's angels. It questions religion. It's really crazy. It's a 3-book series, and there is a TV series, a BBC TV series on it, and there was a movie they made with Nicole Kidman, but they didn't go through all the books, but there's a series on it, and it was a really fascinating book. And when I hear this stuff of CERN and portals and angels and God and religion, I'm like, I swear to God, I read this before. And I was like, His Dark Materials, oh my God. So really, really interesting that this book was written decades ago, and I'm seeing this stuff right now, and I'm going, oh my goodness. psychic? Are they? Is it what do they call that when they tell us what they're up to in books before they actually do it?
Yeah, it's technically, in my understanding, a type of disclosure, but also a type of permission seeking. So a lot of the time, and again, this is just my understanding, a lot of the time, from what I seem to understand, people will read books like that and think that it's really cool. And so them thinking that it's cool is a type of permission and invitation. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're saying, "Oh, that's cool, let's do it." But I would say it's lying by omission.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah,
Because you're
it's
telling
very
someone
tricky.
it's fantasy, it's not real. But I think people don't understand how reality is, and that their thoughts make things happen. And if you've watched a fantasy book and you start fantasizing about it like kids do or whatever, and you start thinking about it after, and it's in your mind, you're actually helping, I think, bring it forth. I don't know if you think that's
Amen,
crazy.
sister.
That's why you have to be careful. That's why you have to be careful what you watch and what you consume, I guess.
Yep, that's why I'm really boring. I don't have cable. I don't watch any stuff like that. I spend all of my time, if I'm not working on the show or writing for Tim or hanging out with the few friends that I do have, I'm either cleaning my house, spending time with my husband, my cat, or I'm learning about psychology and or just other positive things so that I can continue to grow and contribute positively to this society. So I don't really endorse the reading of fantasy materials and whatnot, because a lot of that, in my opinion, is moral garbage. It's filled with half-truths and sexual vulgarity and violence, and I just don't think it's a good idea. Really, I don't. I'm not saying like video games make people, kill each other. I'm just saying that I think.
But it focuses your mind and energy somewhere that's not necessarily for you making a better life.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I
And
totally get it.
it's like people who hang around other people who curse a lot. Eventually, most people are going to start picking up that habit. And I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm going to pop off another video here. Let's check this out. Take a little drink break here. Here we go. I can get it on. Is this the one?
Will now throw a switch, which will either answer certain obscure questions of subatomic physics or destroy the universe.
Oh my God, Particle.
What is it, Professor?
You can tell your grandchildren you were here when humanity finally learned that this accelerator is much too small to tell us anything important.
Oh, thanks a lot, Lisa.
That money could have been used for a war.
What? Ah, no one takes Willie's mop. Take them up. Take them up.
Huh? A mini black hole. Oh no! I gotta take it away before more clueless kids fall into it.
Geronimo!
As rich, as poor and shackless.
Lisa, do you have a stray dog down there?
It's a lot worse than a stray dog.
That's another one of those examples of The Simpsons predicting things and writing about things. Now, I'm not saying CERN's going to make a black hole and suck us all up, but it's interesting that they kind of show a really similar situation of firing up this machine that's going to alter the fabric of your universe, that kind of a concept. So I don't know what's going up. There's a thing where people look at The Simpsons and try to see if they've predicted stuff. I don't know if that's some kind of Mandela effect. I don't know what that is.
I don't know, but I think that there might be something to The Simpsons. I can't say for sure. It's awfully interesting to me that it seems like they get certain super specific things right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the Trump coming down the escalator and running for president.
Yeah,
And
that was
yeah. And then there's a couple of other scenes like where he's holding his hand over those globes in the cartoon, and it's something he actually did.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm just like shaking my head going, okay, there's something else to the universe. And I believe in I don't know if you believe in law of attraction or anything like that, or like your thoughts attract things. I don't think it's as simple as you just think about it and you get it right away.
I
But
agree.
I think that it has something to it. So I don't know if that's playing, or I don't know. Like, it seems that most people see the Mandela effect as like product changes or the change in like the bears saying bears. Do you think it goes beyond that, or like it just seems everybody focuses on that?
Yeah, I really do think it goes far beyond that. Who